never stop to understand others. They enter conversations already preparing their next sentence instead of listening. They watch only what is obvious, while the real story unfolds beneath the surface. This is where your advantage begins. Before you try to influence anyone, before you try to outsmart anyone, become the person who sees what others cannot. Train yourself to observe without rushing to judge. The moment you stop reacting instantly, your awareness expands. Suddenly you notice who interrupts others because they crave attention. You notice who becomes defensive when a certain topic appears. You notice who constantly seeks approval and who quietly commands respect without asking for it. Human nature follows patterns. People may believe they're unpredictable, but most repeat the same behaviors again and again. Under pressure, those patterns become even clearer. Some people become aggressive, others become silent. Some blame everyone around them, while others reveal their fears without saying a single word. If you learn these patterns, you won't need people to tell you who they are. They'll show you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing words over behavior. Words are easy to control. Anyone can promise loyalty, confidence, or honesty. Behavior is much harder to fake. Watch what people repeatedly do, not what they repeatedly say. Someone who claims to value honesty but constantly avoids difficult conversations is revealing something far more important than their words ever could. Someone who speaks confidently but changes their decisions every week is showing uncertainty beneath the surface. Observation is not about becoming suspicious of everyone. It's about becoming accurate. When you observe carefully, you stop making decisions based on assumptions. Instead, you make decisions based on evidence. And that alone separates emotional thinkers from strategic thinkers. Notice how experienced negotiators rarely rush into speaking. They ask questions, then they wait. Silence makes people uncomfortable. Most people feel the need to fill empty space, and in doing so, they often reveal more than they intended. A strategic observer understands that every unnecessary word spoken by someone else is useful information gained. This principle applies everywhere. In friendships, observe how someone treats people who cannot benefit them. In business, observe how someone behaves when things don't go according to plan. In leadership, observe who remains calm when everyone else begins to panic. Stress removes the mask. Pressure exposes character. Another habit of highly observant people is that they separate facts from emotions. Imagine meeting someone for the first time. They seem confident, charming, and charismatic. Many people instantly trust them because of that first impression. But a careful observer asks a different question: what evidence actually supports this impression? Instead of becoming attached to appearances, they quietly collect more information. They allow time to reveal the truth. Patience is a hidden weapon. Most people rush because they fear missing opportunities. Strategic people wait because they know clarity is more valuable than speed. Time reveals intentions that excitement often hides. The more patient you become, the fewer mistakes you'll make when judging people. There's another reason observation creates power. When you're constantly talking, you're giving away information about yourself. You're revealing your beliefs, your weaknesses, your priorities, and sometimes even your plans. But when you're listening and observing, you're collecting information while giving away very little. This creates an imbalance. The other person feels understood while you remain difficult to read. That is a powerful position to occupy. You don't need extraordinary intelligence to develop this skill. You simply need discipline. Walk into every room with curiosity instead of the need to impress. Ask yourself simple questions. Who seems comfortable? Who is trying too hard? Who listens? Who constantly seeks validation? Who changes their personality depending on who's watching? Over time, these observations become instinctive. The goal is not to manipulate people or assume the worst about them. The goal is to understand reality more clearly. Accurate perception allows better decisions. Better decisions create better outcomes. In a world where most people react impulsively, the person who quietly observes gains an advantage that others rarely notice until it's too late. Remember this: the person who sees the most rarely needs to fight for control, because understanding people is often more powerful than trying to overpower them. And once you master the art of observation, the next step is learning how to control your own emotions before anyone else can use them against you. Once you begin observing people carefully, something unexpected happens. You stop being surprised by their behavior. You begin to recognize patterns before they fully unfold. But there is still one obstacle that can destroy all of this advantage in a single moment, and that obstacle is not the other person, it's you. More specifically, it's your emotions. The greatest mistake people make is believing that intelligence alone wins difficult situations. It doesn't. Intelligence without emotional control is like having a powerful engine with no steering wheel. The faster you move, the more dangerous you become, not to your enemies, but to yourself. Throughout history, countless talented individuals lost opportunities, relationships, and positions of power not because they lacked ability, but because they reacted emotionally at the wrong moment. Human beings are emotional by nature. When someone insults you, ignores you, criticizes you, or challenges your status, your mind immediately wants to respond. Your heart beats faster, your thoughts race, your ego demands action. In those few seconds, you feel as if reacting immediately will restore your pride. But in reality, those few seconds often determine who has control. The person who controls your emotions controls your decisions. Think about every argument you've ever witnessed. Rarely does the calmest person lose control first. Usually it's the one who feels personally attacked. The louder someone becomes, the less strategic they become. Their thinking narrows. They stop seeing possibilities and start seeking revenge. In that emotional state, they reveal their weaknesses, expose their intentions, and make choices they later regret. Strategic people understand something different. They know emotions are temporary, but consequences are often permanent. That's why they create space between feeling and acting. They don't deny their emotions. They simply refuse to let those emotions make decisions on their behalf. Imagine someone publicly criticizes your work. Your first instinct may be to defend yourself immediately. But what happens if you pause? What happens if you simply listen, ask a question, or even remain silent? Suddenly, the emotional energy shifts. Instead of looking reactive, you appear composed. Instead of giving your opponent exactly what they wanted, you force them to continue exposing themselves while you reveal almost nothing. Silence is often mistaken for weakness, but in many situations, it is a display of strength. Most people cannot tolerate silence because they feel compelled to justify themselves. The person who can remain calm under pressure gains something incredibly valuable: perspective. Perspective allows you to see beyond the current moment. Instead of asking, "How do I win this argument?" you begin asking, "What outcome actually benefits me?" Those are completely different questions. Winning an argument might satisfy your ego today, but preserving your reputation, relationships, or opportunities may serve you far better in the long run. Many people also confuse emotional expression with authenticity. They believe saying whatever they feel at any moment is a sign of honesty. But true maturity isn't about expressing every emotion. It's about choosing which emotions deserve expression and which deserve discipline. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every disagreement deserves a battle. Sometimes the strongest move is refusing to play the game at all. Observe highly respected leaders, successful negotiators, or experienced professionals. They rarely rush into emotional reactions. When unexpected problems arise, they slow down instead of speeding up. While everyone else is panicking, they begin gathering information. This calmness isn't natural for most people. It's trained. They understand that panic spreads quickly, but so does confidence. By controlling themselves, they influence everyone around them. Another reason emotional control creates power is because emotions are predictable. If someone knows exactly what makes you angry, jealous, insecure, or impatient, they can manipulate your behavior with very little effort. They don't need to defeat you. They only need to trigger you. Suddenly, you're making decisions for them instead of for yourself. This is why self-awareness matters. Everyone has emotional triggers. The goal isn't pretending they don't exist. The goal is identifying them before someone else does. Ask yourself honestly, what kind of criticism affects me the most? What situations make me impatient? What words instantly change my mood? The better you understand your own reactions, the harder it becomes for others to use them against you. Calmness also creates unpredictability. Most people expect immediate reactions. They expect anger after an insult, excitement after praise, or fear after pressure. But when your response remains measured, people struggle to read you. They become uncertain. Uncertainty often shifts the balance of power because predictable people are easier to influence than disciplined ones. This doesn't mean becoming cold or emotionless. Emotions are valuable signals. They tell you something important is happening, but signals are meant to be interpreted, not obeyed automatically. Your anger might reveal an injustice, but it shouldn't decide your strategy. Your fear might warn you about risk, but it shouldn't prevent wise action. Your excitement might inspire confidence, but it shouldn't erase caution. Real strength is not measured by how forcefully you react. It's measured by how completely you remain in command of yourself when reacting would be easier. When your emotions serve your judgment instead of replacing it, people stop controlling your behavior through pressure, praise, or provocation. And once you've mastered that level of self-control, you're ready for the next advantage, becoming so difficult to read that others never know your true intentions until it's too late. Once you've learned to observe people carefully and control your own emotions, you possess two advantages that most people never develop. You see more than others, and you react less than others. But there is a third principle that quietly separates truly influential people from everyone else. They understand that the less others know about their intentions, the more freedom they have to shape the outcome. Most people reveal too much too soon. They announce every goal before they've achieved it. They explain every opinion before anyone asks. They react to every comment, defend every decision, and constantly seek validation from people whose approval doesn't actually matter. Without realizing it, they hand over a map of their own mind. Once someone knows exactly what you want, what you fear, and how you think, predicting your next move becomes much easier. Power often belongs to the person who remains difficult to read. Think about a game of chess. Imagine if one player announced every move before making it. The game would be over before it even began. Yet people do exactly this in everyday life. They tell everyone about their plans, their strategies, their frustrations, and their expectations. Then they wonder why others get ahead, copy their ideas, or position themselves against them. Every time you reveal unnecessary information, you reduce your own flexibility. Strategic people understand that information is a valuable asset. They don't lie. They simply recognize that not every truth needs to be shared immediately. There is a difference between honesty and overexposure. Honest people tell the truth when necessary. Oversharing people reveal everything, whether it's useful or not. The strongest position is often the quietest one. Notice how experienced negotiators rarely show excitement when they receive a good offer. They don't celebrate too early. They don't reveal disappointment either. Why? Because emotions communicate information. The moment your face reveals exactly what you're thinking, you've given the other side something valuable. They now know where your leverage ends and where theirs begins. This principle extends far beyond negotiations. Imagine you're working toward an important goal. Maybe it's building a business, earning a promotion, or developing a new skill. The temptation is to tell everyone about it. After all, praise feels good, encouragement feels motivating, but there's a hidden danger. When people praise your plans instead of your results, your brain often mistakes recognition for achievement. You begin feeling accomplished before you've actually accomplished anything. Slowly, your motivation fades because you've already enjoyed part of the reward without doing the work. Quiet progress is often stronger than loud ambition. There is another reason mystery creates influence. Human beings naturally try to fill gaps in information. When someone constantly explains themselves, there's nothing left to imagine. But when someone speaks carefully and reveals only what's necessary, people begin wondering what they're thinking. Curiosity replaces certainty. This doesn't mean becoming distant or cold. It means becoming intentional. Speak because your words add value, not because silence feels uncomfortable. One of the simplest habits you can develop is learning to pause before answering. Most people respond instantly because they fear silence. But silence isn't your enemy. Silence creates space. It allows you to think before speaking instead of speaking before thinking. That single habit prevents countless mistakes. Imagine someone asks about your future plans. Instead of describing every detail, simply say you're working on something important and you'll share more when the time is right. You've answered honestly without exposing your strategy. Nothing has been hidden dishonestly, but nothing valuable has been surrendered either. The same principle applies to conflict. When someone tries to provoke you, they expect predictable behavior. They expect anger, defensiveness, or endless explanations. But when your response is measured and brief, their strategy begins to fail. They cannot manipulate information they don't possess. They cannot predict reactions you refuse to display. This unpredictability often feels uncomfortable at first because modern culture encourages constant expression. People are told to share everything, every opinion, every emotion, every experience. Yet some of the most respected individuals throughout history practiced the opposite. They allowed their work to speak louder than their words. Another mistake people make is believing they must always prove themselves. They explain why they're qualified. They defend every criticism. They correct every misunderstanding. But confidence rarely needs constant explanation. Insecure people seek approval through words. Confident people allow consistency to build their reputation over time. Think about the people you've respected the most. Chances are they weren't talking endlessly about how intelligent, disciplined, or capable they were. They simply behaved in ways that demonstrated those qualities. Actions removed the need for explanation. Being difficult to read also protects you emotionally. When everyone knows your expectations, they know exactly how to disappoint you. When everyone knows your insecurities, they know exactly where to attack. But when your inner world remains disciplined and private, manipulation becomes far more difficult. Privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is choosing wisely what belongs to you. This is especially important in moments of success. Many people become careless after achieving something meaningful. They celebrate too early, become overconfident, and reveal future plans before securing their position. History repeatedly shows that victories are often lost through arrogance rather than weakness. Stay humble after success. Stay composed after praise. Stay patient after progress. The less attention you demand, the more people notice your consistency. Eventually, people stop trying to predict you because they realize they can't. They stop manipulating you because they no longer know what will influence your decisions. Your calmness creates uncertainty, and uncertainty quietly shifts the balance of power. Remember, mystery is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about recognizing that your thoughts, your plans, and your ambitions become stronger when protected until the right moment. And once you've learned to guard your own intentions, you're finally prepared to understand the hidden motivations that quietly drive the decisions of everyone around you. By now, you've learned how to observe people without rushing to conclusions. You've learned how to keep your emotions under control instead of letting them control you. You've also discovered the strength that comes from becoming difficult to read. But none of these skills reach their full potential until you understand one final truth about human nature. People are rarely driven by the reasons they openly admit. Very few people truly understand what motivates them, and even fewer will reveal those motivations to others. Ask someone why they want success, and they might say it's for financial freedom. Look deeper, and perhaps what they really want is respect. Ask someone why they work so hard, and they may say it's for their family. Yet beneath that answer may be a fear of failure or a desire to prove themselves. Human behavior is layered. The explanation people give is often only the surface. The real reason usually lies underneath. If you want to outsmart people, stop listening only to what they say. Start asking yourself why they are saying it. Every decision is influenced by hidden forces. Some people are driven by the need for status, others by security. Some crave admiration, while others fear rejection more than anything else. There are people who chase power because they once felt powerless, and people who seek constant approval because they never learned to value themselves without it. When you recognize these deeper motivations, people's behavior becomes much easier to understand. Imagine two people reacting to the exact same criticism. One immediately becomes angry and defensive. The other smiles politely and moves on. The criticism didn't create two different personalities. It simply touched two different motivations. One person's identity depended on being seen as competent, while the other's confidence came from within. The event was identical, the internal motivation was different. This is why strategic thinkers never judge behavior in isolation. Instead of asking, what did this person do? They ask, what need was this behavior trying to satisfy? That single question changes everything. You'll begin noticing that many people don't actually argue because they want the truth. They argue because they want to protect their identity. Others don't seek leadership because they enjoy responsibility. They seek leadership because they enjoy recognition. Some people aren't generous because they're naturally kind. They may simply want to be admired. This doesn't mean people are fake or dishonest. It means human beings are complex. The mistake most people make is taking everything at face value. They assume words explain behavior. In reality, behavior often explains words. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is listening without preparing your response. Most conversations fail because both people are waiting for their turn to speak. They're hearing words but missing meaning. The strategic observer listens differently. They pay attention not only to what is said, but also to what is avoided. Sometimes what a person refuses to discuss tells you more than what they willingly explain. Notice the topics that make someone uncomfortable. Notice the questions they answer too quickly. Notice the moments when their confidence suddenly disappears, or when their energy unexpectedly increases. These shifts often point towards something important. People reveal themselves through patterns. If someone constantly needs to remind others of their achievements, perhaps they're searching for validation. If someone always tries to dominate conversations, perhaps they're afraid of being ignored. If someone criticizes everyone around them, perhaps they're protecting themselves from their own insecurities. The goal isn't to judge these people. The goal is to understand them. Understanding creates clarity, and clarity prevents unnecessary conflict. When you understand what motivates someone, you stop taking everything personally. You realize that many attacks have little to do with you. They're simply expressions of another person's fears, ambitions, or unresolved struggles. This perspective changes how you respond. Instead of reacting emotionally, you begin responding strategically. Suppose you're negotiating with someone who values status more than money. Offering a higher price may not persuade them nearly as much as giving them recognition or influence. On the other hand, someone driven by security may respond far better to stability than to excitement. Different motivations require different approaches. This is why successful leaders, negotiators, and communicators spend far more time understanding people than trying to impress them. Another important lesson is recognizing that hidden motivations exist within yourself as well. It's easy to analyze others while remaining blind to your own desires. Ask yourself difficult questions. Why does certain criticism affect you so deeply? Why do some people's opinions matter more than others? Why are you chasing a particular goal? If your answers are honest, you'll begin discovering motivations you never realized were shaping your decisions. Self-awareness protects you from becoming predictable. The more honestly you understand yourself, the less likely you are to project your assumptions onto others. Instead of believing everyone thinks the way you do, you'll recognize that each person is operating according to their own fears, desires, ambitions, and experiences. This makes you a far better decision maker. It also makes you more patient, because once you realize every person is fighting battles you cannot immediately see, you stop expecting perfectly logical behavior from emotionally driven human beings. Remember, people rarely reveal their true motivations directly. They reveal them through repetition. Watch what they consistently pursue. Watch what they consistently avoid. Watch what they defend most passionately. Over time, their priorities become impossible to hide. When you learn to see beneath appearances, conversations become more meaningful, relationships become easier to understand, and manipulation becomes much harder to use against you because you recognize the forces that drive it. And once you can see the invisible motivations behind people's actions, you're ready for the final principle, learning why true dominance is achieved through strategy and timing, never through unnecessary force. Now you've reached the final principle, and in many ways, it's the one that ties everything together. You've learned to observe before acting. You've learned to control your emotions instead of letting others control them. You've learned to remain difficult to read and to understand the hidden motivations that drive human behavior. But none of these skills matter if you misuse them, because the greatest mistake people make when they seek power is believing that dominance comes from force. Real dominance has never been about overpowering people. It has always been about choosing the right moment, making the right move, and allowing strategy to accomplish what aggression never could. Look throughout history. The individuals who left the greatest mark were rarely the ones who fought every battle. They understood that every conflict has a cost. Even when you win, you lose something: your time, your energy, your focus, your reputation, or your future opportunities. Strategic people know that the strongest victory is often the one that never required a fight. Most people react, strategic people respond. There's an enormous difference. Imagine someone insults you publicly. Your first instinct may be to defend yourself immediately. Your ego demands an answer. The crowd is watching. Silence feels uncomfortable. But ask yourself one question before you react. Who benefits if I lose control right now? Very often the answer isn't you. Many people provoke others because they understand something simple. An emotional opponent is easier to defeat than a calm one. The moment they pull you into their emotional world, they've already shifted the battle onto ground they prepared for you. This is why patience is one of the most underestimated forms of strength. Patience isn't passive. It's calculated restraint. It means refusing to move until the timing favors you. Think about an experienced chess player. They don't attack every piece they see. Sometimes they sacrifice a small advantage to create a much larger one later. They understand that every move should serve the final objective, not just satisfy the emotion of the moment. Life works the same way. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every disagreement deserves an argument. Not every challenge deserves your attention. Some battles exist only to distract you from the ones that actually matter. Successful people protect their energy because they understand its value. Every unnecessary conflict drains mental focus. Every pointless argument steals time that could have been invested elsewhere. While others are busy proving themselves to everyone, strategic individuals are quietly building something that speaks louder than words ever could. Another mistake people make is confusing speed with intelligence. They believe acting first means staying ahead, but speed without direction often creates failure. There are moments when immediate action is necessary, but there are many more moments when observation is the wiser choice. Waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means allowing more information to appear before making a decision. Time has a remarkable ability to expose what emotion hides. People reveal their intentions. Situations become clearer. Masks begin to fall. Many problems solve themselves because impatient people create mistakes that patient people simply avoid. This is why letting others underestimate you can become one of your greatest advantages. Human beings constantly judge appearances. If someone seems quiet, they assume weakness. If someone avoids unnecessary attention, they assume a lack of confidence. If someone doesn't constantly advertise their abilities, they assume there aren't any. Strategic people rarely correct these assumptions. Why should they? An underestimated person enjoys freedom. People lower their guard. Competitors become careless. Opponents reveal more information than they otherwise would. Then, when the right opportunity arrives, preparation quietly defeats overconfidence. Remember, confidence doesn't need to announce itself. It simply performs when the moment arrives. This principle also applies to long-term success. Many people want immediate victories because immediate victories satisfy the ego. But lasting success belongs to those willing to think years ahead instead of days ahead. Ask yourself before making any important decision: Will this action still benefit me 6 months from now? 1 year from now, 5 years from now? If the answer is no, perhaps you're solving a temporary emotional problem instead of building a meaningful future. Strategic thinking always favors long-term outcomes over short-term satisfaction. There is another lesson hidden inside this idea. Sometimes the strongest move is walking away. Society often teaches us that quitting is weakness,